You're listening to Post-Dramatic Stress, hosted by Charlotte D. A weekly podcast to connect creatives and communicate about the highs, lows and laughs of being in a creative industry. This is the very first Post-Dramatic Stress podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is my baby. I'm very excited about it. And I'm hoping this space will be a really useful space for creatives in Perth, or not just Perth, but in Australia and globally. And I'm hoping that it's just going to be a forum where people can connect and communicate and share. I think the creative industry can be really amazing and wonderful and interesting, but I also think it can be this really isolating, sometimes scary place where we don't often connect and talk. So I'm hoping that this podcast and this space will be somewhere where people can do that and tune in and have somewhere where they can feel that there is someone out there that feels just the way they do, or is just as unsure as they are, or find inspiration in all areas of creativity. So with that, I have my first guests today. I have Reba Ide and I have Max Larkin here with me today.
Hello.
Hello.
It's great to be here.
I might start with you, Reba.
Yep.
I've done a little bit of investigating. I do have the fortunate placement of knowing you, but also I've done some little sneaky digging, and I've discovered that not only are you an actor, but you have also been a singer in the past. You've also been a producer, I believe. You've studied at NIDA. You've studied somewhere called Mark Piper, Byron Bay Film and TV School.
Yes, I did.
And my most favourite thing so far, because I get to be involved in it, is you are one of the founders of Make Space Theatre.
Yes, that is correct. All true information. Very good digging.
Excellent.
Makes me a little bit scared. No, I'm joking.
I just wanted to get to know you really well.
Thank you, social media.
Exactly. I pretty much just stalked you on Facebook today. And Max, I've done some digging on you as well, and I also know that you are the co-founder as well of Make Space Theatre, which is very exciting. And I've also discovered that you're a writer, not only writing scripts and plays, but you have a blog called acontemporaryblog.com. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I do a lot of poetry, and I'm pursuing a career in journalism as well. So any written word is what I'm into.
Excellent, lovely. And I believe you're also a journalist and producer at WTV Perth?
Well, I was, yeah.
Oh, you were?
Yeah. That was just an internship, but, you have to get out there somehow.
Yeah, lovely. I guess so that our audience can get to know you a little bit better, and I can get to know you a little bit better, could you maybe talk to me about where you sort of feel you fit within a creative world, and why maybe you feel the need to be creative? I thought that might be nice each week for people to just chat generally about what types of creative people are out there and who we are and what we do, and not just our creative world but our day jobs, just what makes us up as humans. So Reba, just tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I think I was very, I was just a creative kid in general, but I was never one who got involved in like a lot of team sport, or was like super, I think I was always shy as a kid. So my mum put me into just a weekend drama school when I was 8 years old, just to get me, into some socialising, some sort of outlet that was different to school, and that's kind of where I found a love for drama. And then kind of down the track a few years later, we found a better, more awesome, really fun theatre group, more local to home, and that's kind of where I fully developed my learning and love for theatre and acting and drama, and that was called Double Mask Youth Theatre Company.
Okay.
And I was with them for 10 years, so all through high school as well. We would write our own musical every year, we would adapt a classic text, and we did really fun things like laser skirmish tag, but in the theatre realm, or we did like street theatre on food festivals in the town, or what else? Oh, so much else. We did like commedia dell'arte, masks.
I have no idea
music
what that
festivals.
is.
That
What is
is
that?
that is a very ancient form of theatre. Probably very close to one of the most original forms. They would wear masks, and when you put that mask on, you are that character, whether you like it or not, basically.
Right, okay.
And the tradition is that you cannot become that character. You cannot let an audience member see you put the mask on. You always have to turn your back. So it was kind of like a nice grounding to do that craft, to form characterization in a sense, because you're like, okay, I know that you always have to you always have to prepare your character in order to become the character, and you have to live that character. So that was a nice thing to do. But through that theatre company, that's kind of how I became a producer, like you mentioned. So as I was older and we formed some connections, we were able to make a film side of the theatre company. And so I helped produce a web series. That was fun.
What was the name of your web series? Should we go and check it out?
Yeah, there's a YouTube channel. It's called D-Mask Originals, so a little abbreviation of the double mask. And the web series, man, I do remember it.
It will come to you.
It was like, there was one called Interplanetary Recon 6, but that was just a pilot. And then the new one was Odd Universe, that's right.
Okay.
And there was like all these different stories linking.
And if we want to go check them out, would they be on Facebook?
They're on Facebook. They're through Double Mask Youth Theatre Company's Facebook. Actually, no, we have our own Facebook because I set it up. It's called D-Mask Originals. That is the name.
Excellent.
And it's on YouTube and Facebook, and we even have an Instagram because we're pretty fancy like that.
Excellent.
But that was a few years ago now. And I'm over in Perth, so it's I don't think it's no longer running in New South Wales, but it was a great time. Yeah.
And then most recently, the two of you together have formed
Make Space Theatre Company.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
All right, so I guess one of your questions, it was like, where do you get inspiration? Is that correct?
Yeah. I guess we could definitely lead into that. One of my topics was finding inspiration for new work and ideas.
So I don't want to say unfortunately, but this is how I get inspiration. I'm normally in a bit of a slump, and I'm in a bit of a funk, and I'm in a place in my head that I'm like, I just want to do all of this stuff. And so I write it all down, and then I'm just like, I have too much stuff that I want to do.
Yeah.
How am I going to do this all? And I get really overwhelmed, and I get to a point where I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
This is too hard, but I want to do it all, and there's not enough time, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So Make Space came from one of those moments, and I wrote down, I would love to start a theatre company called Make Space Theatre Company. Just a place that, you perform theatre wherever and whenever, and with original work, and just calling all people that want to play and have fun. So I wrote it down, kind of didn't hide the piece of paper, but just kind of, just left it on the table. And Max came home and read my idea and went, oh my gosh, let's do it. Let's do it. I was like, really? Are you sure? All of my ideas I've written down, they never really come into fruition. But
what made you want to do it, Max?
I just wanted to see my work performed. I just wanted to at least get a reading,
Yeah.
And it all worked out so well. What we're doing right now is just fantastic. So
yeah,
it's been amazing. I wouldn't have changed anything. The fact that we're doing this is just brilliant.
Yeah, I think often when you're a creative person, well, I can't speak for everybody, but I definitely relate to having those moments of just, your brain is just full of so many ideas, but often I find I have so many ideas, but I never execute any of them because they're all so wonderful, and you move on to the next one and the next one and the next one. So I think it's really great that
we finally picked one and went for it.
Yeah, and not only of that, the two of you together have that sort of supportive venture where you can be each other's motivation and keep each other accountable. I think that maybe that's a really important part of managing the creative process. It definitely is for me, I think.
Well, Reb is definitely a motivation. The first script I wrote was so I could impress Reba.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Tell the story.
Well, just at work, I don't know. And we...
Do you want me to tell the story?
Yeah.
We were working in the same cafe and just chatting. I didn't know Max had a thing for me. And he was like, oh, I'm writing this screenplay. And at the time, I was actually doing that producing that I just told you about. I was like, oh, well, I can produce it if you want me to. And he's like, yeah, that'd be cool. And then we were able to, talk about that. So that's how we kind of got to know each other a lot more.
Something in common.
Yeah, and then I invited him to this short film night that I was in a film because I'd been doing some acting. And so we went down there. It wasn't a date. I made sure it wasn't a date, but it actually was a date.
Definitely a date.
And then from that night, the rest is history.
Oh, that's lovely. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Another topic I wanted to talk to you about today, it was a creative mind, and in particular, I think it leads on from what we were talking about. I find often that having a creative mind and having lots of ideas and being in this kind of industry where you're often pulled in many different directions, doing many different types of work because you want to live a creative life, and unfortunately that means you've got to have one job here and often one job there, or some people are working full-time and trying to be creative at the same time. So how do you keep your mind healthy? And not only just you as a human healthy, but your creative ideas. How do you keep sort of that balance between being healthy and whole as a human and not stressed, but also keeping that creativity burning? I might start with you.
Well, I heard this quote from Ian McKenna which said, create your own culture. And he was talking about how when you consume a lot of culture, you sort of start to lose the ability to create your own culture. And I find when I watch and binge watch, too much of The Office or too much of something, then I sort of lose that ability to be creative. So you have to do things which sort of clear your mind to be creative, I think. So, after work, because I work as a chef, so after work you do something like exercise or walk the dogs, or you have to break up the positioning between work life and creative life, and you have to give yourself days and you have to stay focused. So if you have three things going on, you want to do the creative thing, you just have to have an idea and go with that idea. So when I write my plays, I write them in 3 hours or 4 hours. Like I don't stop when I do that, and I pretty much get it all done in one go.
You just set the time aside and get rid of any distractions. And
yeah, I suppose I might just have a cup of coffee or have a break, but I always just get straight back into it. I think that's the best way to, and also staying healthy. I think, like exercising
like physically.
Yoga is just fantastic. I recommend that to everybody on this planet.
Yeah, I agree. I think it really calms your mind and puts you back in touch with your body and connects you to yourself. Would you say then that you almost approach your writing, it's almost like a work ethic, I suppose, that you're talking about? Like you set the time aside and you're like, this is what I'm doing. I'm writing and that's it. And do you find that's why you're successful, or is that just who you are as a person?
Well, I want to define myself as a writer. So the only way to do that is to be a writer.
Is to write.
Yeah. So you have to do it. You can't just sit around and say, I'm a writer, and not do it, or not put it out there. Like my work wasn't getting put out there, so I created we created the Make Space Theatre Company.
Yeah.
And now my work is going to get out there and we're going to perform, and it's just going to be amazing.
Yeah.
So Steven Spielberg said, if nobody's going to put on your show, put it on yourself.
Yeah, I agree. I so agree, and I think that's something we're going to talk about as a bit of a segue later. I'm definitely going to come back to that. And Reba, what about you? Keeping a creative mind healthy and keeping your creative ideas burning and not burning out your brain, and how do you manage that?
Well, I definitely agree on the yoga as well. Like Max and I started doing yoga. We were doing it pretty much every day. We pretty much still do it every day now. Yeah, we've been going really strong.
That's great.
Doing it almost every day. And if we miss a day, or like last week we missed 3 days, and we both got home and went, we need to do yoga. Like,
Yeah.
we miss it, and our bodies crave it now because it clears the mind.
Yeah.
In your lungs, you can breathe.
So that's
deeper.
that's one
Yeah.
thing I do.
Oxygenating. That's not a word. Sorry.
It is. I think it is.
I hope it's a word. Sorry,
Yeah.
people.
Oxygenate. Make sure you oxygenate and
Yeah.
hydrate.
Another thing would be, because I do pretty much work full time 5 days a week, something I've recently started doing is getting back into singing lessons.
Okay.
So having that place to go, and it's just half an hour, and it's just a nice place to go and do your creative outlet. Like,
Yeah.
even though it's not acting, well, it is kind of acting in a way,
Yeah.
but even though it's not a specific thing, it's something. And that's,
Something
I think,
opening it up
yeah,
and-
something, having like a place to go where you can do your creativity, or even if you don't have that, just like giving yourself that half an hour, setting aside the time, like Max said,
Yeah.
that would be the best option.
Another thing I do is I set ideas, not goals. So you don't say, I'm going to wake up at 6:30 every morning and go for a run. I say, I'm going to be healthy and run. And so I don't feel bad when I wake up at 6:30 and say, I don't want to do this.
So it's like setting realistic goals.
Yeah,
So
well,
you
it's
don't-
more
yeah.
like an idea. I just want to be healthy. So I'm going to go for a run tomorrow, but not putting these time constraints on it and making myself feel bad when I fail to do it.
Yeah.
Because none of us wants to go for a jog at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And so when I do, I'm proud of myself, but I don't expect myself to do it because these high expectations are just...
Yeah, but it's an
Not
idea
healthy.
there. It's almost like an anchor that's always
Yeah.
pulling you towards the right
Yeah.
spot to where you want to be. But
So my ideas are just like, I want to be a great journalist, I want to be a great playwright, I want to be
Yeah.
all these things, and there's not any goals there. It's
There's
just,
no time frame.
yeah, no time frame. It's just I need to go that way.
see, I think for me, I sometimes I'm very much like that. And recently I watched this TED Talk. I'm sorry, I can't remember which one it was, but it was about this lady who basically looked at all the hours that are available in the week. And I don't know if this was a good idea for me to have done, but I looked at all the all the hours that are available in a week, and I took out sleep, and then I worked out how many hours were left of my life, and then I wrote down all the things I would love to do, all the things I would like to dedicate time to. So I wrote down, writing. I wrote down bettering myself at singing. I wrote down acting training. I wrote down the podcast, and then I filled in all the much more boring things. I put in family time. I put in friendship time. I put in husband time. And it's actually, I found it a really interesting exercise because I think I was so scattered in the past, just trying to do everything and thinking I had all the time in the world. And all of a sudden I realised what I actually had time for, and that really helped me to see where I wanted to focus my time. And I think my challenge is being as structured as you are, actually, now that I know all the things I want to do, is sitting down and doing them and not getting distracted and procrastinate and finding one thing and then being like, oh, what's over here? I think that's something I need to work on. So I'd love any tips on that, people who are listening. If there's some way that you keep yourself focused and don't flutter off everywhere which way, that would be great to know. Max, earlier on you were talking about, I think, making things happen. And I really like that idea, and it was one of the topics I wanted to talk to about today, is about this idea of like destiny or drive. And I think so often we put it out there and we say, one day I'm going to be an actor, but we don't set any steps. And I think what you guys are doing is really great. I think the way you just approach it, almost like with that work ethic, and sit down and just be like, I'm just going to write for the next 3 hours, is amazing. But I'd love to talk to you both more about how you sort of look at your big picture goal and how do you work towards it? Or do you even believe that you should have to? Do you think actually it should just be out there as an anchor and it will eventually lead you there? I don't know.
Well, you got to work towards it, of course. You can't just... It doesn't... Nothing naturally happens, I don't think. Well, a lot of things naturally happen, but yeah. I don't know. When we do anything, we want something good to come from it, and we're hoping something good comes from this. Even just the fact that we're doing it is good, and we have to dare to be wise. Yeah, so we have to be okay with failing and just try and learn how to do the right way. So
Yeah.
I think there is a right method to do it, but we don't know it. Nobody really knows the right method. You have to find your own right method.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going for. I'm trying to find my way
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly do believe that like things happen for a reason. So if something doesn't work out, I always like to think, well, something good will come of this, or that wasn't meant to be, something else is coming. But you still have to make it happen. You know, you can't just wait for it to happen. So like, great example is we moved to Perth.
That is
we moved all the way from New South Wales, drove across the Nullarbor for 5 days.
Yeah, 5 days.
To get here.
Wow.
And, you know, I think we both had creative outlets back at home, but we knew there was something bigger. So we took the plunge, and now we're doing Make Space. And, you know, it's like if we didn't move here, that wouldn't have happened. Or
well, we have so
something
much
else would have
family back
happened.
there. We have so much
Exactly.
family and so many friends, and every day there's something new happening. Whereas we come out here, it's sort of like,
it's like a retreat.
well, yeah, it's like when those martial artists go into the woods for months to, you know, hone their craft. You know, we're just
Perth is your woods.
we're living out in the hills anyway, so it's good. We're sort of we live quite calm.
No
lifestyles.
distractions. It's just us.
Mm.
We get to choose what we're doing.
Don't have to babysit every day.
That's always good.
Yeah.
Talking about my next topic is every week I'm hoping to talk about what's happening in the world of film and theatre and creative expression and camera work and artists and anything basically that you can possibly think of that might be creative. I'm hoping to talk about that. And this week it would be great to talk a little bit about Make Space Theatre. So could you tell me a little bit more about why it was so important for you to create this and what you want it to be? And can you talk about your shows that are coming up?
Yeah. I think it was really important to create this because for me and Max, I just know that I always will need some sort of drama or theatre or just something creative in my life. Like, once it started, it's almost an addiction. Like I can't get rid of it. You know, it's within me, and in whatever form it will always be.
Yes.
And that's in a good way, you know.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I just feel this need to express myself all the time, and I'm sure it annoys people all the time. But I just always feel the need to be outside my body with my expressions and to share that with the world.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Even if we have, you know, self-doubt of your talent or your qualities or just your capabilities, we'll still do it, you know. Nothing's going to stop us now. And so we've created this theatre company called Make Space. It's 3 original plays written by the Max Larkin. And I'm not acting, and I will be directing this one. So my family's a bit like, oh, you're not on stage, we miss you, you know. But I kind of like being able to step back and take it from a different perspective. It's a very holistic approach to the company. I think being able to have that experience as an actor and know what they're feeling at the same time. So I like that fact about it.
It's just a pleasure to be able to work with like-minded people.
Yeah.
To have actors who want to be up on stage as well. It's like it's just fantastic. You come in every week and you're excited to be there. And it's just brilliant. It's like a sport or something.
Yeah,
you know, everyone comes in, we're a team, and we want to do a good job.
Yeah.
And even if nobody shows up, you know, I'm just going to be so pumped to see it happen. And it's daunting because we've never done anything. Well, I've never done anything like this before, like totally producing it, getting all the lights together.
Let's talk about how much work we've actually put into this.
So much work.
Guys, if you're listening, I just want you to picture this. We bought a stage, and the stage, it goes on the ground, and we're performing on the grass, but we actually have a stage, so we look professional, because that's our goal. We want to, you know, make this theatre company the best that it can be. So this stage, it's 4 metres by 3 metres, and 6 panels, and each panel is 60 kilograms.
Or heavier.
Or heavier. I'm pretty sure they're heavier. Like, we are getting guns with this thing.
Wow.
But yeah, it's like the stage in itself, for some reason, it's just like, oh my gosh, that's the one factor that's like, should we even do this? But it's pretty, you know, it just makes it real. It makes it so real because we have to lift this thing and set it all up. And
it's a statement.
Yeah.
This is happening.
It's like the stage is real, guys. We have to do this now.
Sourcing milk crates and lighting.
Stealing milk.
No, we're not stealing. We're not stealing. We're buying them.
Yeah.
And borrowing. And
we've got like 10 real stage lights.
Yeah, and we were only going to buy 3 because we sold them for $30 each or something. But we get there and we tell him that it's a not-for-profit company, and he says, "Just take them all for $100 or something." So we just take them all.
So nice.
$60 or something.
Excellent.
Yeah, and like I'm pretty sure we're regular customers at Bunnings now. We should have one of their caps. Yeah. So it's been a whirlwind, and I'm actually so excited. I'm very excited.
We still have so much more work to do, and we only have a week to go.
And where will your performances be?
So at my work, the House of Honey in the Swan Valley, and 867 Great Northern Highway. Remember that, put it in your calendars. It's next Saturday and Sunday, the 16th and 17th of February. So it's actually the weekend of Valentine's Day, and it's actually the closing weekend of Fringe Fest. So with that, we really cannot predict our audience numbers, but it only will run for 1 hour. It's just going to be a nice little, you know, after work, you can come and watch this show, bring a picnic blanket, bring some snacks, bring some water, and just have some fun and watch these shows.
Watch these shows, and just briefly, what sort of shows will we be seeing?
Well, they all have elements of humour in it. They're just aspects of life that our society has been dealing with for all of time, really, mostly. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
A little sneak peek. Are we sharing any more, or is that as much as you want the audience to know?
There's a
synopsis.
There's a synopsis on the event page, but yeah, it's like there's one called Lizards of Gloom, which is just a funny name for quite a unique and almost ridiculous play about.
I had a question of that. Did you call it Lizards of Gloom because lizards shed their skin, and it's almost like shedding a light?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
maybe.
Well, it's,
that's what it is now. That's
you'll
what
have to come and watch it.
It's it was about the name of the TV show.
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Which is part of the play. And then the play about a bar is sort of like a filmic style play, which is quite fast-paced and humorous. And then Last Rites is a quite a dark play actually, but it's short as well, and it sort of looks into what it's like to live your last moments, I suppose. And Charlotte's playing the prisoner.
It's true. Yeah. Now no one will come and see it.
And how is it playing the prisoner? What do you reckon?
To be decided. I think it's still early in the process, but I think it may potentially be my favourite one.
Yeah.
I think I'm really starting to grow into it. So yeah, I think it's great. We're nearly at the end, but before I move on, where can we find, if we want to go and check Make Space out, where do we look for you? What are your Facebook details and things?
Facebook is Make Space Theatre Company. Facebook slash Facebook. We also have a website.
Yeah, but it's wordpress.makespacetheatreco.com.
Great. I think I saw it on your Facebook page today, so I think if you start there, you could link to the website. Yes. And do you have Instagram as well?
Not at the moment.
Not yet.
We don't.
Okay, no worries. Thank you so much. There's a little segment left about every week. I'm hoping that as this show grows and blooms and listeners become more engaged, we will be able to answer questions that you may post. So I am planning to call it the tweet seat, and to make it sound a little bit more exciting, I'm just going to put a little bit of music behind the tweet seat. Unfortunately you guys can't hear it, but trust me, it's amazing. So being that it's a new podcast so far, at present I've only posted it on a page called the Perth Film Network Group for Actors and Filmmakers, and there was a couple of comments there, and one was by Jessica Heath, and she asked, which is something we've covered a little bit about, but perhaps we can delve into it for a few more minutes. She asked about work-life balance with regard to the high demands of our industry and maintaining a social life. How do you guys go about that? I mean, you're blessed already with the fact that you're in a relationship and you can share Make Space Theatre together, but how do you find managing your creative life in general and also having a social life and work life and everything else life?
Well, I work 3 days a week, so I have 4 days to do stuff on my computer. So I study full-time as well, but online.
Wow.
So it's so I just do them during the days, and then during the night, if anything's on, I go check it out. But mostly my friends are at my work because I work at a really cool place called Feral Brewing Company.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, and everyone there is totally rad.
Awesome. That's always good if you can socialise at work.
Yeah.
I think I often hear with, when I run along to things or if I'm involved in projects and I get talking to people I haven't met before, I definitely have sensed a theme of finding it hard to connect, I think. And I think depending on what age group you're in as well, it can sort of, as you get older, I think it becomes more and more hard to sort of maintain that social life with limited time. But I don't know if you experience that at all yourself, or do you find?
So I don't know, I'm a bit the same, like my friends are kind of at work, so we all get along really lovely, and that's we're all like, we're not chit-chatting all day because we're working, of course, but we're having a good time. So that's a nice social balance for me personally. And then I guess I like to stay in the loop of the theatre and film network via social media. So I'm super excited that Wicked's coming to the Gold Coast. I'm super excited that Matilda the musical is moving to Melbourne. I'm super excited that there's all these major films being filmed here in Perth, which is really phenomenal. So I like to stay in the loop with that. I don't really go to much networking nights that are held because I'll probably be working. So that's kind of how I do it.
It seems like both of you are sort of combining your lives, I think, and that's how you're able to time manage it, which is an interesting approach. But perhaps that's something we can delve into maybe on another show and have a chat about that a little bit more, about maybe other people that are struggling and what they do and what their techniques are, and maybe there are ways that we can connect you to people in Perth if you are someone that's listening and you're looking for some like-minded people to meet. Now, I'm very aware that we're getting towards the 32-minute mark, and I've always promised that these will be under 30 minutes, so it definitely is time to wrap up. But thank you both so much for helping me and coming on and being such amazing guests on my very first podcast. It's been absolutely amazing having you. Thank you so much. Listeners, if you are wanting to connect with the show, you can find us on Twitter. You just type in @dramatic_post. You can find us on Instagram @postdramaticstresspod, and you can find us via email if you're wanting to chat to us. Please chat to me via postdramaticstresspod@gmail.com. So thank you so much. Thank you for listening. If you're watching on Facebook, and we're live, I really apologise for my very disjointed start. I promise things will get smoother and much better as we go along, and I'm planning to upload these once a week, preferably Wednesdays. So thank you so much, and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Post Dramatic Stress. To connect with us or to register to come on the podcast, visit us at www.lettingcharlotteout.com or email us via postdramaticstresspod@gmail.com.